Jerry, thanks for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be at the 2021 RIU Exporers Conference. It's my first conference, RIU, and it's thanks to Stuart. Most pleasurable to be here. For those that are listening in from elsewhere that aren't in the auditorium, welcome to the Estrella story. It's quite an exciting one. Please note that this presentation will be available on the ASX website, and obviously the standard disclaimers in relation to what's about to be presented this afternoon. So who is Estrella Resources? Well, Estrella is a WA-focused nickel explorer in a Tier 1 mining jurisdiction. We are one of very few in the nickel exploration space that's having some success. Our flagship project is the 100% owned Carboid Nickel project, approximately 80 kilometres north-northeast of Kalgoorlie, the city of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. Our initial drilling programs have discovered significant massive nickel sulphide at the T5 prospect, about 1 kilometre north of the old Carboid Rocks nickel mine, which some of you in this room, in fact, I know of, have worked with Western Mining and Great Boulder in those earlier years in the nickel boom of the 1960s. We've got currently a major exploration program underway at the site, and it's how we're going to deliver value through discovery for our shareholders. We've got a highly experienced board and management team, well-versed operating in the West Australian mining jurisdiction, and specifically the nickel exploration space, and that's where I've cut most of my past 20 years is nickel exploration and trying to find these nickel deposits, and they are not easy to find. Between our new board member Neil Hutchinson from Geological and Steve Warren, who I scored recently, he's joined us over the last 2 months, both between them have made significant nickel discoveries over the past 15 years, including Cerebus, the new Golden Swan discovery at Silver Swan, Abbey Rose, and now the T5 discovery at Carboid Rocks. Our capital structure is as presented there. We've got a market cap pushing approximately $70 million. Our T5 discovery has been a game changer for the company. As you'll see, we had a bit of a spike in October. If you had have invested $10,000 in Australia in August, that would be worth $170,000 today, even after the pullback. I am hopeful for the shareholders that are still on board, and we can add another zero behind that number. The nickel price, you've heard it for the last 3 days. We're in no doubt. We're in a nickel boom. The thematic is very clear. Nickel price is going up, and we're going to be a part of it. So Carboid, as I mentioned, is 100% owned by Estrella. It's continuous tenure covering the entire mafic igneous complex, which does produce, these igneous complexes do produce very large magmatic nickel sulphide ore bodies. It's covered by 3 mining licences, 6 exploration licences, and the miscellaneous licence covers 45 kilometres of access road from the significant sealed Goldfields Highway as we come through Scotia on the west, just to the west of Carboid. And interesting in that location map, you can see how close we are to the Australia's second largest nickel sulphide plant, currently under care and maintenance. Needs a little bit of ore feed at Silver Swan and Black Swan. So why were we so interested in Carboid? Well, history tells us a lot of things, and you've got to understand the history of Carboid. It was discovered in the nickel boom of the 1960s by Great Boulder. They went and commenced mining the nickel pipes at Carboid Rocks and were subsequently taken over by Western Mining Corporation, a preeminent nickel sulphide developer, obviously with the nickel boom of Kambalda. The nickel price waned in the late part of the 1970s and Carboid Rocks was closed, and Western Mining retreated back to its larger mines at Kambalda and obviously the Leinster district. Along came some entrepreneurial West Australian Explorers and Defiance Mining in the late part of the 1980s, and they consolidated the tenure around carboid rocks, which was not part of the Western Mining package. And that was in 1987 through Defiance Mining. And as you know, a lot of junior explorers, we're hamstrung for capital. And until we make that breakthrough and that capital is available to us, that we can then go through and explore hard so that we can add value. They were forced through the demise of the resource market in the 90s to transition through to .com, and the assets were sold at the time by a board that were actually doctors. They weren't explorers, they weren't geologists. They actually owned these nickel assets and divested these assets because they were more interested in medical monitors and weren't interested in resources. But it did go to a group that did know a lot about nickel sulphide and particularly mafic intrusive bodies, and that was Titan Resources, and they'd just made $20 million out of the Radio Hill mine, and they decided this was going to be the next big thing for them, and they got involved in that. And subsequent to that, there was a little bit of there was another acquisition by Titan, and you may some of you in this room may know that they got into a bit of strife mining at Armstrong at Widgiemootha, and then they were forced to divest and joint venture this asset in 2006 to a group called Yilgarn Mining, which became Brockman, and they changed their focus through to the big iron ore discoveries up in the Pilbara, which was extremely successful for them, but carboid rocks just did not get the exploration that it justifiably deserved, because from 2000 onwards, post Voisey's Bay, the knowledge exchange of mafic intrusive bodies and the understanding of discoveries for these intrusive bodies and the exchange of information meant that the discovery rates in intrusive bodies and clonoliths, etc., was going to increase for the future because of that exchange of information. And I hope Google and Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, if you're listening, please keep the news flows going, because it's that information exchange that we all need to capture so that we can apply that information back into what we're doing. And it's no different for exploration, and specifically for us nickel exploration. And that knowledge exchange that we've developed over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been incredible in Western Australia, and that's why it excites me, is the history of carboid rocks. And when you look at carboid rocks on a desktop, it's not exciting. It produced 200,000 tonnes of ore at 1.43% nickel. But it's when you dive down into the actual nitty-gritty, what was the sulphide, what was the tenor, and why was it at only a 1.4% mine grade or ore grade going through the mill at Fimiston and Kalgoorlie in the 1970s? And the bottom line is the massive sulphide goes 6% nickel, 2% copper. It's an ISS, which is an intermediary sulphide. It's remobilised. It's come from a source. It's come from a chamber, and that chamber is going to be very large. What they mined at Carboid was the leakage of something much larger. And that's what we know from what we've developed over the years, specifically with this exchange of information and the knowledge and the research that's gone into mafic igneous complexes and discoveries, is that's what we know about Carboid today. And that's what interested us, and that's why we went after it. So where did all this massive high-grade nickel come from? We think it's come from very close by. And you can see those discoveries that have been made of recent times, and the exchange of information and the build-up of industry expertise has led to discoveries. You're seeing the Mawson's discovery of Legend, exceptional. The Chalice discovery at Julimar, exceptional. But why has it happened? It's because the knowledge of these deposits has increased dramatically, and we're using that knowledge and applying it to Carboid, because that's what Carboid is. So we are building the geological understanding of the Carboid igneous complex. This is a magmatic image plan view of Carboid rocks. As you can see, Carboid sits just inside the edge of the basal contact. That yellow line that you can see running through the image is the believed basal contact for the intrusion. We're going through and we're continuing to map map that in detail. We're looking for, obviously, this basal or source trapment, or where the nickel has, and you would have heard it in the impact minerals earlier, you've got to find the entrapment or the gravity site for where these sulfides are settling out to, and that's where you'll find the big sulfide nickel accumulations. So we're doing a lot of that. We're putting carboid into 3D modelling, and it's one of these other technological advances we've had over the last decade, is that we're now putting these things into 3D. We're using software packages that they didn't have in the 60s and 70s. They didn't even have computers. And we're seeing that we can put these things in 3 dimension. We can whiz-bang them around on 20-inch, 22-inch screens. We can start to see what's happening with the architecture for the immediate geological environment. And then we can generate targets, and then we can go and drill them, and then we can go and find nickel sulfides. So it all kicked off with drilling, and that's the important part. You've got to drill holes. And we drilled the RC holes in 1919. We didn't have a lot of cash, but we did hit nickel sulfides in the basal contact. First time that we'd done that on the basal contact, and that was pretty exciting, but we didn't have a lot of money. And 2019 wasn't the best for an explorer in 2019, so we just kept going, we just kept plodding along, and until the time was right and that we could get some funding and we could do some deeper diamond drilling hole under the RC intersection, and eventually we would test it, and eventually we would get to find out what T5 was all about. And bingo, in August, September, October, we drilled a hole. It was hole 30. We drilled a number of holes. We decided that we were just going to roll the dice, drill 600 metre strat hole, and off the left side of the boot, after many weeks of some pain and angst, we blew the budget on the drilling. We were drilling some days every, maybe a metre of drill core, and we were probably about this close of pulling the pin on the whole program. And we just persisted. We had a belief. We really wanted to pursue what we were looking for, and it was that belief that we just kept going. And I don't know why, I don't know what it was. It was a group of us that sometimes I waned, then the geologist waned, and I said, no, let's keep going. And we just kept going. We persisted and we had the belief. And then when hole 30 came in, our market cap went from 70 million to 200 million, and that's why we drill holes. So we've drilled a few more holes since then, and we've got more understanding, and we're starting to unravel the puzzle. What we're seeing at T5 is that it represents what we're calling MSS, monosulfide solution. So it's connected to carboid in some way, but it's on the basal contact. It's a conduit pipe. And we're seeing through the imagery and the work that's being done in 3 dimension that we're seeing a definite plunge direction to the mineralisation, and we're drilling holes now to confirm our modelling. And what we're seeing, and we've got a hole going in now from an EM target generated from hole 42 that hit something, I think we hit 14 or 18 metres of mineralisation in 42. It's 500 metres vertically below surface. We've got 1.2 kilometres of mineralisation on surface. This thing's quite big in terms of a mineralised basal contact. But we're seeing, when we're drilling deep and we're using the technology and we're using the technologies that we have and applying that, we're seeing this for the first time, and it's a buzz. It's Christmas every time we put a hole down, because we just don't know what's going to come out of that hole. Is it going to be 20 metres of massive sulfide? And I'm always thinking, geez, we went up 1,700% on a 3.5 metre massive sulfide intersection. What's going to happen when we hit 30 metres or 40 metres of massive sulfide of high-grade nickel? And I can tell you it's not far away. So we are understanding the geology, and we've determined there is flat faulting, there is some offsets, so we are getting a head around that. We've collared more holes to test that theory. And this is very important. You've got to have 3 key ingredients in these things. You've got to have ultramafic rocks, you've got to have a sulfide source, and you've got to have a gravity trap for the sulfides to settle out. Carboid has all those key ingredients. Not only that, we're already seeing it in the massive sulfides that we've hit and generated to date. So we're just about to kick off a trial seismic survey. It's another tool that we're putting forward. It's the first time it's ever been used in Australia. in the combination that it's being used in. I've always wanted to do seismic at carboid rocks, but it's been too cost prohibitive. There is a new technology that we're going to trial. It's the cost of a drill hole, or cost of our drill holes at a deep drill hole at that. But the ability to use modern technology to unravel carboid is what it's going to be about. The team arrives tomorrow. We kick off the survey on Monday. They'll do 20 kilometres of line survey, of seismic survey. We'll pull and generate all that information together. We'll overlay all of our data sets, magnetics, drilling, seismic, everything we can to see the architect structure of what we know about magmatic nickel sulfides. Where is the trapment site? Where is the source of the carboid nickel sulfides? Let's go and find it. So the work program ahead, we've collared 2 diamond holes. We're going in. We've set up camp. We were in tents and we were living like gypsies for 6-7 weeks. We've now put in a proper camp. We're there for the long haul. The seismic work's going to go. We're going to continue drilling. The drill rigs are turning. So it won't be long before we do get that 30 metres of massive sulphide. I'm absolutely strongly of the belief it's coming. So that's the investment opportunity for us. We're well funded. We've got deep in the money options. I think we've got about $11 million coming in before June. We're focused on the geology. We really want to unlock carboid for what it is. And we're extremely leveraged to the success of what carboid may be. Thank you very much all for your time, and I hope to see you on the register.